SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast discusses topics which are relevant to the everyday lives of seniors and their caregivers. We are joined by experts who share their knowledge on a variety of issues. SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast offers solutions and resources to create the best quality of life as we age. And now, let's welcome your host, Darlene Mahoney.
Does the idea of searching for senior housing solutions seem overwhelming and you're not even sure where to begin? SeniorLivingGuide.com makes senior housing search, home care, home health, as well as many resources available to you right at your fingertips in one easy-to-navigate website. So visit us today at SeniorLivingGuide.com. And I would like to express our gratitude to the SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast sponsors, Terabella Senior Living, where seniors unlock a richer, more rewarding lifestyle for assisted living and memory care in a warm, welcoming environment. And Live Dry adult incontinence products designed for moderate to severe incontinence issues. Live Dry provides reliable all-day and all-night protection. Quick absorbing, high capacity, and odor control helps you feel more confident when you wear Live Dry. And today we are joined by Tiffiny Ann Overath. She is a licensed clinical and independent social worker and the founder of Journey Forward Counseling, LLC, a local private practice in Melbourne, Florida, which is where I live.
Yay.
With over 2 decades of experience, she has worked across diverse clinical settings, supporting individuals, couples, and families with a focus on improving overall quality of life. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, I kind of overheard you talking at a social worker case manager appreciation luncheon here in Melbourne. And one of the things you were talking about was something that I can relate to.
Sure.
But I know so many seniors and really a lot of folks can relate to it, but it's insomnia.
Yeah.
It's a booger, girl.
It is. And it's so common. I think probably 70% of my caseload kind of deals with this problem. So folks that come in to see me for a variety of reasons. I think actually the last statistic I heard was something like a third or 2/3 of adults, I should say, have sleep troubles, and 1/3 of them end up with a diagnosis of insomnia. So that's 1 in 3. That's a pretty big statistic, right? That a lot of people have these problems, and maybe to no surprise, women are more likely, about 40% more likely to have insomnia. Veterans, about 60% more likely, and seniors are the highest rate of insomnia, with like 75% of our seniors are having trouble sleeping.
It seems like to me, I just think of myself, and I'm not quite in the senior category, although AARP may disagree with me. When you're a kid, you can sleep, but you get up really early, but you get some good sleep. And then as a teenager, you can sleep for like
days.
Yes. Oh, the dream of having that back. Yeah. And then you go to college and you're still doing some of that kind of thing, but then you start going into the workforce and you start having children, and those babies, especially for women, specifically keep you up.
Yeah.
And so it really messes up your sleep pattern. And then you think, well, you know what, when they start sleeping through the night, then I can get some sleep. But then I don't know about some folks, but I would like, if they were not getting up, I would get up to make sure they were still alive, because you just start and you just go into all the worrying patterns and things like that. But then I think you kind of can get back to like some regular sleep, but then you start getting, I feel like I'm going to put the timeline in your 50s.
Maybe.
When suddenly you start having issues.
Yeah. What I think is so interesting in what you're sharing is the correlation between stress and sleep. And so in all my research and all my reading and all my experience with troubled sleepers and insomniacs is this understanding that the correlation between mental health and insomnia is locked in. So 80% of people with insomnia have either depression or anxiety. So when you're talking about having a baby, right, and bringing a new baby into the home and expanding your family, what happens to your stress level? during those first few days, weeks, months, years.
Oh, you become the worry
Yes, yes. It
wards. Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
explodes in a
Yeah.
way that you've never had before. You know, becoming a mother is the most stressful thing that probably exists. And so this is a big part of my focus, is not so much a medical treatment, because we'll talk a little bit about that if you like, but there aren't a lot of medical options. My focus is on the depression and the anxiety. If those things are treated and well managed, then ultimately the insomnia will subside. The insomnia is oftentimes a symptom of the mental health, not the other way around. It isn't my mental health, or isn't the insomnia that creates depression. It's the other way.
But let me ask you this. If you are not sleeping, the lack of sleep can also add to the stress that you already have, or the anxiety that you already have, because you're begging for something that's just not happening, that's out of your control, and you think, oh, I'm going to go to sleep and have such a good night's sleep, and then you wake up at 1 and you're awake for 4 or 5 hours and you're like, no.
Yes. It is definitely what we would call like a symptom cycle. So once it starts, it almost like backfills itself to keep you locked in. Yeah.
And then you feel like garbage all day long. So that's never good.
Absolute garbage. Yeah. And I also think it's interesting about how easy it is to sleep when you're young and not as easy to sleep as you're older. And some of that is actually biological. So interestingly, when we look at sleep recordings of babies versus adults, babies have more REM sleep than adults. Hands down. Every like 10 years or so, you have like a 10% reduction in REM sleep. It's very interesting how we are just built to sort of have less and less of that deep sleep as we grow. And part of that is because of the purpose of REM sleep, to kind of reconcile memories and new knowledge and learning. So obviously as a baby, you're learning a lot more than as like a 50-year-old. I've learned quite a bit at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I do know that, just because I've gone through the insomnia, and a lot of it is related to life events, the passing of a family member, or, something going on that's stressful in your life, your marriage, or whatever. I mean, there's a gazillion things that are happening, especially in today's world. And the option seems to be for medical providers, medications.
Yep. That's pretty much all that's offered, right? You see your doctor, I'm not feeling well. Makes sense to go see your doctor. Sure, I'm not sleeping, there's a problem. You get two choices from your doctor. Take a pill or live with their problems. These are not great options, right? And since ultimately what I'm going to try to convince everybody is that a pill isn't really solving a problem, right? If the underlying problem is actually my depression, my anxiety, my stress management, then a pill isn't going to do anything for that, right?
Right.
And who really wants to take a pill forever? Like for the rest of my life in order to sleep and build that kind of dependency? So bless our medical providers, but they do not have the solution. They just don't.
Right. Okay. So what advice, without, clearly speaking to the person that's experiencing it and kind of digging through what's going on that's causing it, is really ideal.
Yes.
But in general, what are some things that you recommend that can be helpful to bring down those stress levels and to give yourself a better opportunity for a decent night's sleep?
Sure. One thing that I will say that medical providers have done a better job at in the last few years is this conversation about sleep hygiene. I don't know if you've heard that term, sleep hygiene, sort of an interesting phrase. But it has to do with like some specific healthy habits or behaviors or even environmental factors that can be adjusted for a good night's sleep. So this is ultimately always a good place to start. But I will say sleep hygiene is probably more of a proactive approach. These are good to maybe prevent developing insomnia and might not do a lot if you already have it.
Okay.
Right. So these are things like, don't drink coffee at dinner. Set the temperature of your home like cooler. Get regular exercise. These are all relatively straightforward. You've probably heard all of these before, right? And so doctors do a good job with that stuff. But I think they miss out on the deeper dig, right? So one of the things that I teach is this concept, cognitive restructuring. It basically just means changing how you think about your sleep, right? So if every time I think about going to sleep, I think I'm not going to get a good night's sleep, it's going to be a horrible night, I'm going to be miserable tomorrow, this is never going to go away, there is something wrong with me. See the trend? What are all those thoughts kind of invoking?
You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes. And you're sort of turning on your wake system. You're activating yourself through all of this like anxiety and distress, right? Your heart rate goes up, your pupils dilate. Interestingly, I don't know if you know this, but stress actually bottoms out your metabolism. When you're stressed out, you don't like metabolize your calories, folks.
I 100%
Yes,
know that.
we all know this one, right?
Yes.
And so like all of those thoughts around your sleep have a tendency of making your sleep worse. So we work really hard on correcting some myths about sleep, as well as, you know, bringing people back to sort of a more neutral like thought about their sleep.
Okay. So, you know, for me, turning down the air and having a fan, game changer, got a sound machine, you know, doing all the extras. I don't do caffeine after like
Smart.
probably 11 or 12 because I used to be able to do that and sleep, you know, whatever. I used to go get a coffee at 7:00 at night, you know, whatever. 100% not.
Yeah.
I can't even do, and I don't even risk it with decaf because I've had decaf that kept me up as well. So I don't know if I got the switcheroo in the Starbucks line, but yes, definitely have had that as an issue. And then one of the things that I think people forget about as well is turning your phone off, because I can like hear a text or something come in and I'm asleep and I ignore it. But then at some point I'm dreaming about that text.
Yeah. It's
and I end up waking up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is really part of a more mental health focus that we would call stimulus control. So this is sort of this idea that like any particular environment can cue a specific emotion. Objects, sounds, textures, smells, things can cue very specific emotions. Think about what you might feel walking into the DMV. Stress.
Yes.
How you feel walking into your grandmother's house. Oh, comforted, right? And so the bedroom all by itself is becoming a cue for people. So it's becoming a place that I'm stressed out, a place that I do my taxes, a place that I doom scroll on my phone, a place that I watch TV too late, right? These are things that we can very, well, I don't know about easily, but very pragmatically fix and create my bedroom to be a cue for sleep and sleep only. So we need actually to turn off all electronics, televisions, tablets, cell phones, all of it. 2 hours before bed is the goal.
Wow.
Yes.
So binge watching Netflix and then going to bed immediately after.
Not great, right? Because
not great. Yeah.
I mean, there's if you're generally a normal, healthy sleeper, it's probably not a big deal to watch Netflix right up until bedtime. But if you're having sleep troubles, a different set of rules need to apply. Just like with diabetics, they don't get chocolate cake every day for dessert, right? This is just a different set of rules to manage that particular illness. So yes, absolutely no electronics, nothing that is sort of activating, nothing that like turns on your wake system, nothing that increases stress or anxiety. So adult coloring, meditations, yoga that's relaxing, none of that like wild, crazy power yoga I've seen done at some of these studios lately.
Yeah.
You can read if it's like tax law, maybe that's nice and boring and will help you sleep, but no like murder mysteries or like intense romances. Like those are all activating.
Right.
Yeah. And so
like maybe putting together like a puzzle. I mean, working something like that, which is relaxing, but still keeps your brain active.
as long as it's not stressful. So if you're one of those like competitive puzzle people, or like you just find it frustrating to not find the right piece at the right time, then no, we've turned into sort of this activating part of our evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just calm relaxation 2 hours before going to bed, so that you're really relaxed to increase your opportunity for good sleep. So are there different types of insomnia as far as So what are those types? I'm
Yeah.
so curious.
Yeah. So there are really three types of insomnia. So one is referred to as onset insomnia, and that just means I have a hard time falling asleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then comes maintenance insomnia. That's I fall asleep okay, but then I keep waking up and I have a hard time falling back to sleep. And then, of course, the lucky few who get mixed, so they get a little bit of both, right? And so any insomnia could potentially start as situational, right? Like let's say you have a presentation, like me today at the podcast. Maybe there's a little nerves the night before a test or a big event, and you just don't sleep really well, right? A one and done thing, like that's just happens, that's normal. But a lot of times what happens is that stressor actually starts to like that missed night's sleep, I should say, sort of starts adding stress into the next day. Oh gosh, what if I don't sleep again well tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then I start working really hard at like trying to sleep at night, which is just making me more and more anxious and activated while lying in bed. And about a month later, all of a sudden, I'm still not sleeping well. I now have insomnia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very slippery and very easy slope to go from a situation to a chronic problem.
At Terabella Senior Living, seniors unlock a richer, more rewarding lifestyle for assisted living and memory care, offering daily activities, home-style dining, and 24-hour care in a warm, welcoming environment. Tour today to see the comfort and care we offer at Terabella.
If you or someone you care for is dealing with moderate to heavy incontinence, you've experienced products that leak, and that is never acceptable. Live Dry products combine high capacity with fast absorption and a secure fit to help eliminate leaks and improve comfort, even during extended wear. With Live Dry, it's protection you can trust.
Thousands of positive reviews on Amazon can't be wrong. Search LIVDRY on Amazon. Live Dry products are available at Amazon.com and Walmart.com.
So let me ask you this question. Does it make a difference if you do have certain insomnias where, you can fall asleep, but then you wake up? If you push your bedtime to a later time, does that make a difference or no? If you go to bed typically, 9:30 or earlier or whatever the case may be, do you think if you waited later in the evening to go to sleep, that you would decrease your opportunity to wake up in the middle of the night, I guess is my question.
Oh, I get what you mean. Yeah. Well,
sorry.
No, that's okay. Some of that is part of what we call prior wakefulness. And so that's really this concept of like how tired you are, how much time you've been awake since the last time you were asleep, right? And so in one of the strategies I teach called sleep consolidation, we will in fact move that bedtime later and later until we hit a spot that your drive to sleep, that internal like urge to sleep is strong. So treating insomnia, I also say like oftentimes things might get a little bit worse before they get a little bit better because I may keep you up later than you maybe want to and deprive a few hours here and there to get you back into consolidating all of your sleep into this one chunk of time at night without all of these wakings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is slightly off topic, but if you have sleep apnea, are you more prone to have insomnia?
For a couple of reasons, I think that has a lot to do with the comfort of the device, right? And so just getting comfortable with it on your face, if you have like a CPAP, can be a little tricky. And then maintenance insomnia, like if you're having apneic events that are waking you up, or just the device is moving around on you at night, which it does. So full disclosure, I actually have sleep apnea. Thankfully, I was able to get fitted for an oral device instead of the big mask. But yes, especially getting used to that device is not an easy sleep.
Yeah. But it's important if you have sleep apnea.
It's very important to treat
it, not to just ignore it. Yes, 100%.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I thought that would have some kind of a contributing factor
of
one
course.
way or the other, especially if you aren't treated and you do have sleep apnea and you don't have a device, that you would think that having those issues would cause you not to get a good quality of sleep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we think of just what an apneic event is basically that you have stopped bringing oxygen into your system, and then what happens to your heart rate? It picks up, right? It tries to pump what oxygen it has available to your organs. And so basically your heart's going to start running a marathon in the middle of your sleep. That's not good sleep. Some people
Right.
actually wake up during an apneic event, but even if they're not conscious, their body definitely woke up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things I know, one of the first things you mentioned was women being a little bit more problematic.
Sure.
And then clearly seniors as well. So one of the things that kind of correlates, or I'm asking if it correlates, is like hormones. As you age, you start losing estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and all the things. So are those the somewhat contributing factors as well that can lead to some insomnia?
Yeah, they are. I would say the more interesting hormones have to do with cortisol and melatonin, though. Like those are the more interesting hormones that impact sleep. So if we think about like your hypothalamus, so it's part of your deep like ventricle brain. Think your like your lizard brain. That is where we sort of have what I call the central pacemaker. It's the thing that's in charge of breathing, heart rate, metabolism, all of these sort of automatic features. This is also where cortisol and melatonin live, right? And these are big hormonal drives for like your circadian rhythm, that concept of sort of being awake a portion of the day and asleep a portion of the day. So women in our culture do in fact carry more stress than men. Right. And we can talk about that. That's a whole other podcast.
That is such another podcast.
A whole other podcast, right? And so generally women are carrying around a lot more cortisol, right? Which is a hormone that is directly tied into the fight or flight response. Okay. So when I'm in a fight or flight response, I am activated. My wake system is wide open, right? This is not a time to sleep. And so even though our bodies were designed this way, and this is a very good and important feature of our body, the types of stressors that are releasing cortisol have changed a lot over a couple hundred years. It is rarely like a storm or a bear that we're afraid of, right? It's our boss, it's that email, it's that presentation, it's my teenage daughter. That girl is scary, and so our bodies are just constantly kicking out nonstop cortisol, which means our bodies are prepared to fight all the time. That does not make for good sleep. As we get older, I think there's a very similar thing that happens in terms of stress, right? It isn't the same as like the new mother stress, but there is a profound stress that comes with aging. Our social circles change, our family connections start to thin out or dwindle. We stop working, we're not as social, we're more isolated. Stress and that cortisol just starts kicking, right? And then here we are in this like nonstop state of awake. Yeah.
And I think, with seniors and elderly folks, they have more medical issues that they worry about, keeping medical appointments that they have to go to, keeping track of doctors. It's just like a game of Tetris, I think, at some point.
Probably, yeah.
Especially if you have different ailments and different things going on that you might be seeing different physicians, keeping track of your medications, making sure you're taking the right ones, all the things. I just think there is so much that is put on seniors on top of even the social isolation. And I do think one of the things that can also cause it is if you have too much time on your hands, your brain starts going.
Yes,
you just start like all of a sudden stuff you wouldn't think about or worry about are just top of mind.
Yes. You
start to worry because you don't have other things occupying your brain.
Yeah. And that is deeply rooted in a biological survival as well, right? So this ability to sort of pick out problems or see problems really in order to solve them is deeply rooted in who we are and how we've evolved as a species. I remember this study from Harvard I read a few years ago that talked about optimists and pessimists, and it kind of makes me think of this. So they took a group of people that were optimistic in nature, and they tried to make them pessimists. And then they took a group of pessimists, and they tried to make them optimists. What do you think they noticed? What was the difference between these two groups?
I would imagine just kind of knowing that, like my friend circle, and family circle, there's consistent pessimist and consistent optimist. The optimist, they will break it down, and it is really hard for them to become pessimistic because they have such a different. I don't even know how to explain it. I'm somewhat jealous of it. I'm not gonna lie, because I am not I feel like I'm somewhere in between.
Okay.
But I do feel like some of my friends that are optimistic, they're always finding the glass half full. Even if you're preparing, you're giving them something negative, they can find the better half of it. But it's hard for a pessimist to see it.
I think you're actually a little optimistic about this particular research study, because what they found was actually quite different in that moving an optimist to a pessimistic space was pretty easy. It actually didn't take very much effort at all. But moving a pessimist to an optimist was nearly impossible, right? And so all that says to me is that my brain is naturally looking for problems, right? This is part of survival from millions of years ago. Like I look at this place and decide, is this where we're going to set up camp and build a village? Well, no, because there's a river there and it might flood, or no, there's a lion den over there in the corner and we can't, right? This is very important part of who we are as a species, to sort of find problems in order to solve them. So all that means to me is that we have to try very hard to stay optimistic, to manage our stress. It has to be quite intentional, right? Because we're not wired to be optimists.
Oh my gosh. That is incredible to me, because I just kind of felt. So my question is how do we do that? If you know, because you know if you're a pessimistic person, you know that you're the Debbie Downer, that you see like the negative in so many different things, and you just worry. You know you're a worry. And sometimes I really do think it's hereditary, or it was maybe the way you're raised, so you just kind of pick up on that your entire life. But because I do see it kind of trending family-wise. So how do you acknowledge that and make those steps to improve your optimism?
That is great. That is a great question. So this is really sort of part of that cognitive restructuring that we were talking about earlier. So if you have pessimistic thoughts around your sleep, we would first work hard at identifying what are those automatic negative thoughts, right? I call them ants, like the guys that ruin your picnic. An automatic negative thought. In cognitive behavioral therapy, we would refer to these as cognitive distortions, right? Like all or nothing thinking, disqualifying the positive, catastrophizing, personalizing. These are all sort of these more pessimistic or negative thoughts, distorted thoughts that we first have to identify. And then, as I say, it isn't so much about stopping a negative thought as it is adding another thought to it. Right? So like if I have this cup of coffee and it's way too strong, it isn't, it's perfect. If it was way too strong, would I just dump out half the coffee and the remaining coffee would be perfect? No, it doesn't work that right. Same
you
with
just get less bad coffee.
Exactly. Just like my negative thoughts, I can't just dump them out. What I need to do is I need to add something to those thoughts. Just like I would add creamer or sugar or water or something to thin out my very strong coffee, I need to start intentionally adding more positive thoughts, or even neutral. Even a neutral thought, a more accurate thought, is better than a negative one. And then slowly over time, these more neutral or positive ones would replace those automatic negative ones. So first is finding them, and then is intentionally adding something else to that moment.
Do you think that with intention, looking at each day in the beginning and maybe each day in the end, this is just something I'm thinking that I could utilize, is gratitude for the day. So what was good for the day? So kind of, and looking for the good in the day, I think is the other thing. What would make today great? What can I do today? And it may not even be something that's gifted to you, but it's something maybe you gift to someone else.
Sure.
You know, what would make today great? You know what? I'm gonna help an old lady in the grocery store. I don't know. Just there's a million different things that I think can fill that cup a little bit.
Absolutely.
But they're intentional. Very
intentional and strategic, right? Like this, and this is why working with a mental health therapist or a licensed social worker like myself is really important, to help you kind of find those things, be able to pick those out. What are my negative thoughts? What are these sort of automatic, almost distortions that are popping up? Maybe it is a lack of gratitude, and we would call that disqualifying the positive. Like I come to the end of my day and all I can see is the problems. The whole day wasn't a problem, I promise. Most of the day probably went fine. You may have had some very big problems, but most of the day went fine. but we're disqualifying that. So a gratitude practice is literally the cream to my thick sugar, or to my thick coffee moment, right? I love a gratitude jar. I have one. I've kept one for years.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think about a jar.
Yeah,
That's a good idea because that's really super quick.
Yeah.
And then when you are like in a place, you can pull it out and pull out some of those gratitudes as a reminder to kind of boost your
Have hope.
Have hope.
Yes. And remind yourself that it isn't, while there is bad, this isn't about like pretending like there aren't problems in the world. This isn't like gaslighting yourself into like ignoring or dismissing things that are problematic. It's just making sure that that's not the only thing in my cup.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's the best lesson of the day.
Yes.
I will take that
Yes.
all day long. Yeah. No, well, I really appreciate that. So, one of the things I did want to ask you about, because I know that you mentioned like sleep hygiene. And the first thing that I thought of was, is it better to like have a like warm bath and a shower at night, or is that something that's helpful?
Yes, that's good. So I get so excited when I get to talk about the science behind it. So body temperature is directly related to the science of sleep. So remember when we were talking about the hypothalamus and the pacemaker, sort of all those automatic systems? Within that sort of circadian rhythm system, that wake-sleep system is a change in your body temperature. So in the peak of your day, your body temperature is the highest. At the peak of the evening, or the middle of the evening, is where your body temperature is the lowest. So I can, in fact, hack this system with a hot shower or a hot bath about 2 hours before bedtime to force my body temperature to start coming down, right? Which is going to sort of kickstart part of that sleep system. So my sleep system says, cool down, Tiffany, like your body temperature is supposed to start coming down now so you can sleep now. So I can kind of hack into that system with a hot bath or a hot shower about 2 hours before bed. Yeah,
because I will tell you, I am the girl that's always cold. I mean, even we're in Florida, it's a gazillion degrees, and I'll still have like a little shot. People are like, what? And I always, if the wind has any little coolness to it, it gives me a chill.
Yeah.
But about 9 o'clock at night,
Ooh.
I could toast a bagel.
You just start getting hot.
I mean, I just start getting hot.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I just start. There's some probably hormones related
Maybe.
to that, but but I've really noticed I'm like, I'm just dying.
Yeah.
It's just the craziest thing that my body is so obviously regulating based on day and night. Yeah.
And very opposite to what your natural sleep system would want. We actually want you cooling down at night. So you may be able to like force yourself a couple hours before that to get really, really hot, and see if like then you sit under a fan with the air conditioner in your face and see if that would force your body temperature to start to cool down.
Yeah. Interesting. Crazy.
It is.
Crazy.
It is a very complex system, sleep, right? Like insomnia is just one of about 80 different sleep disorders and conditions that sort of exist. There's a ton of science and a ton of mental health and a ton of negative thoughts and a ton of sleep hygiene. Like it is very complicated. Yeah.
It is complicated just to get a couple Z's.
It is. And that's why it's really important to work with somebody. Like this isn't something that you should have to navigate by yourself. You don't need to be an expert on sleep science. You can go find that person. And again, bless our medical providers. It's not them.
Right. So if this is something you specifically wanted to look for, and we have listeners that are all over the country, so they're not, in our backyard, probably enjoying some cooler weather today,
Maybe.
But maybe not.
I know, right?
But what would they look for if they said, you know what, I need to talk to somebody about this that's not my medical provider? So what would they, if they were going to go to Google or whatever, what kind of therapist would be your best bet to put into that search bar?
Sure. Well, I would probably try to find somebody who can deal with some type of chronic illness or chronic condition, because that's what insomnia is. It's rarely a situation that just goes away on its own. I would look for somebody with some training in cognitive behavioral therapy, even better if they've got some certifications in cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. That's a very specific training. But otherwise, it's really about finding a fit when it comes to a therapist. So somebody obviously that's licensed and board certified and all of that, but somebody that you can really be honest with, right? I mean, if you hold back part of the story, just like if I go to the doctor and I don't tell him all my symptoms, he can't treat me. Right. If I don't tell him what's going on. So finding somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you'll be honest with, and that, you trust and respect enough to try some really wild things they might ask of you. Like I may ask you to take the TV out of your bedroom, and you've had it there for 44 years and you're not happy with me, but I may still ask that of you, or to turn your phone off. Like literally put that sucker on do not disturb and pretend we're in the 90s. And you just can't be reached. And it's going to be okay.
And let's be real. Johnny Carson's not on anymore. You don't need the TV at night.
You really
anymore.
don't.
I mean,
you really
don't. Yeah. So, no, those are some great tips. And would you like to share your information if anyone is interested in connecting with you directly?
Of course. So I am licensed here in Florida as well as Iowa, which is actually where I grew up and went to college. Go Hawks. But so I obviously offer virtual support for those out of state and in person in Melbourne for those here. But I can be reached. You can find me online or just reach out by phone or text. Do you want me to share my number?
So I will put it up so you can share that with me, and then we'll put the link to your website, et cetera, within the description of the podcast.
Perfect.
Easy access. So for sure. Because I do think you would be such a great resource for folks that are really on the struggle bus.
Yeah, I know. And I think the most important thing I can say is that this is very treatable, and there is room for hope here. With structured cognitive behavioral therapy, 90% of patients will return to normal sleepers. 90%. That's as high of a rate as anybody can give you, right?
Yeah.
And for those of you who are taking sleep medications, 80% of my clients will come off those meds entirely in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I know that, medications are something that's normally given. I am not a fan of the least amount of medications I can be on.
Me too.
Is where I want to be, regardless of what it's for.
Of course.
So I think it's such that's a goal that I'm consistently working on.
Especially with sleep, your body can do this. I promise. It just needs to kind of come back to some basic rhythms, and the process, like I said, is a little hard, and things may get a little worse before they get a little better. But I like to think of it like a defibrillator, right? It's a shock to the system, but it will bring you back into rhythm.
Right. Do it the right way. Thank you so much for joining us today,
Thanks
Tiffiny.
for having me.
This was very enlightening to me. I hope our listeners are caregivers, because they've got some stuff going on as well that can
stress.
The stress, as well as seniors that are have their own set of stressors and anxiety in their lives.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.